Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you by MegaPixx Media. Joining me today is Dan Kelly, who is President and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Dan.
Happy to be with you.
Let's talk politics. The Federation today put out a news release regarding a leaders survey looking at the party platforms for the federal election. Can you just give me a sense of just overall what your impression or the organization's impression has been so far from what you've been hearing from the parties?
Well, look, there hasn't been a huge focus on the economic issues over the course of the past number of weeks of the election campaign. And that's one of the reasons why we did the survey of our leaders and analyzed the platforms. There are some commitments for small and medium-sized businesses, but I think they've been kind of buried in the other discussion. Certainly in watching the English language leaders debate, I think other than the last 5 minutes of the 2-hour debate, if you were a business owner or a person caring about the economy, you wouldn't have found much that you could really dig into. And it's one of the reasons why CFIB has taken the role to ensure that we've ferreted out more from the campaigns of each of the parties to be able to make sure business owners have what they need to make their decisions.
Yeah, and for our viewers here, the link to that will be with the story, where you guys look at each of the parties and look at the positives and negatives, et cetera.
It's at cfib.ca/federal election. But yes, adding that link will be super helpful to get to in front of a whole bunch more entrepreneurs.
It seems kind of odd. It's funny because I just was recently mentioning to someone else about how there hasn't been any talk at all about the oil and gas industry, for example, here in Alberta, which, is the driver of everything. And which, leads me to think the same thing as you were saying. It's like from an economic point of view, man, there hasn't been anything. And that's kind of surprising, don't you think?
It is worrisome. It was one of our big concerns as the campaign began. I will say that there is at least some acknowledgement that we're still in the middle of a terrible pandemic and the economic effects are not over. So it is good news that the parties have at least spoken about that. But if you were trying to look to the platforms to see what's going to get us out of this whole longer term, what's going to get all parts of the economy back on track, you'd have to dig pretty hard in a lot of the platforms to find it.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I noticed in your news release today was the percentage, 54% of business owners surveyed said they would not advise anyone or someone else to start a business right now. Is that surprising?
It is, and isn't that worrisome? The very people that are owning and running businesses right now would not recommend it to their kids and to others in society, and that should trouble us all. I mean, these are the kinds of entrepreneurs that we want to be recommending getting into business, because we need people to take some risks and to grow the economy, to create jobs for all of us. But I guess on one level it's not a surprise, because one of the groups that was hardest hit coming out of the all the restrictions, and of course, some provinces like Alberta moving back into new restrictions, has been the small business owner, Main Street small business owners, those that deal with customers face to face in retail, hospitality, the service sector, tourism, arts and entertainment. All of those businesses have just been fundamentally affected by the pandemic. And so I suppose it shouldn't be a surprise that many business owners are saying, you know what, going and getting that government job is a lot more secure way to earn a living than taking the risks as a business owner. That's not a good thing, though, for the country long term.
Yeah, I guess the uncertainty is a key, right? It's that's
sure.
What really hits business owners, and because you don't know, as been discovered in Alberta, you don't know day by day like what's going to hit you next, right?
It's very true, and we're not out of this, and this is one of the reasons why we've been so concerned about governments staging back and in fact ending some of their COVID support programs. That was one of the very first questions we asked of all of the political parties: is what are their plans to try to get the economy, get small businesses out of the pandemic and all of its related restrictions. There were some notes of optimism. Most parties do have some plans to help some businesses over the next number of months. The Liberals have talked about extending the hiring benefit, that incentive to get small businesses to hire until the end of March of 2022. The Tories have got their own hiring incentive. They've also reopened the CEBA loan program and raised its maximum to $200,000, of which 25% is forgivable. That's a recommendation we really like. The NDP and the Green Party have also talked about extending the wage and the rent subsidy until all of the COVID restrictions are eliminated. That needs to happen. So each of the parties has some positive recommendations, especially to try to get businesses through the pandemic. Lots of worrisome stuff, though, too.
Does it worry, I'm not worry you, but maybe concern you that we're going to have another minority government?
Look, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. The blessing is that there's no one party that can ram through its agenda, that there are more points of influence. So an advocate like I can meet with, go and meet with the leaders, not just of one party to try to press your case, but other parties to try to help influence it. That was very useful in the last minority parliament because the NDP was very helpful to us, for example, on getting the wage subsidy brought up from the 10% subsidy up to a 75% subsidy. But it does, minority parliaments often are very slow moving, and that can be a real struggle. And to your point, we need fast moving governments right now to be able to help us get through the next number of months during this emergency period. We saw many of the government support programs delayed in some instances because they had to get the legislation changed if there was a loophole or a gap found. So it's, again, mixed blessing.
Okay, super. Can you give us that link again, Dan?
Sure. It's cfib.ca/federal election. On that site, you'll see a few things. One is a link to the survey of the leaders that we conducted. Two, an analysis of each of the platforms that we did at CFIB to highlight the best and the worst of each. Third, we've got some videos, a town hall video with the leaders, with candidates from each of the major parties. We have that in both French and English on the CFIB website, and all of that is being posted right now.
Okay, super. Thanks again for joining us, Dan.
Anytime.
That was Dan Kelly, President and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you by MegaPixx Media. Thanks for joining us today.